What makes a man truly attractive is not always what the world loudly advertises. It isn't hidden in expensive clothes, a sculpted body, or the fleeting rush of showing off possessions. Those things might grab attention for a moment, but they rarely hold it. True attraction, the kind that makes people gravitate toward you and remember you even after you've walked away, comes from something quieter, something deeper, something you can't always capture in a photograph. It begins with presence, the way you carry yourself, the way you walk into a room, not demanding attention, but naturally pulling it, because there is something about you that suggests steadiness and control. Women notice this without you even trying, because presence is impossible to fake. It comes from how you see yourself, how you handle your emotions, how you stay grounded even when the world around you feels chaotic. That is where attraction begins, and it only grows from there. When a man learns to master his emotions rather than being a slave to them, it becomes magnetic. Imagine two men. One loses his temper at every small inconvenience, raising his voice, showing impatience, demanding that the world bend to his moods. The other faces the same challenges, but responds with calm, collected energy. He doesn't suppress his emotions, but he doesn't let them control him either. His calmness makes people feel safe around him, and in that safety, attraction blooms. Women are drawn to the man who radiates calm strength because it signals that he is not easily shaken, that he has the ability to weather storms. That steadiness is far more compelling than the loudest boast or the flashiest display. There is also something magnetic in purpose. A man who wakes up each day with direction, who pours his energy into growth, who has a vision for himself beyond the surface pleasures of the moment, he naturally becomes harder to ignore. Purpose creates a kind of fire that shows in your eyes, in your posture, in the way you speak. It isn't about what job you have, how much money you make, or what goals you chase, but about the conviction that you are moving forward in life. Women sense when a man is drifting, unsure of himself, waiting for someone else to give him meaning. And they sense, even more strongly, when a man has chosen his own path, when he has something to build, something to protect, something that fuels him. That is deeply attractive, because it is rare, and because it promises stability and adventure at the same time. Confidence is another quality often misunderstood. It is not arrogance, not the constant need to prove yourself, not the loud voice that fills every silence. True confidence is quieter, rooted in self-respect. It's the way you speak with clarity, the way you look people in the eye, the way you make decisions without endless hesitation. It's the way you can listen without feeling the need to dominate, because you know your worth doesn't need constant defending. Women see this, and they are drawn to it. They can feel the difference between forced bravado and genuine self-assurance. The first tires them, the second intrigues them. But perhaps one of the most overlooked sources of attraction is discipline. A man who can discipline himself, his habits, his thoughts, his time, inevitably commands respect. He doesn't indulge every impulse, doesn't waste hours chasing temporary pleasures, doesn't crumble under temptation. His discipline shows that he can take responsibility for his life. And that responsibility is what makes others trust him. Women do not seek perfection, but they are drawn to a man who demonstrates that he can control himself, that he is capable of building and sustaining something meaningful. That quiet strength of character speaks louder than anything else. Attraction is not about impressing, it is about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need external validation to feel valuable, becoming the kind of man who doesn't chase approval but naturally earns it, becoming the kind of man who others look at and say, He has something rare, something I want to be near. And this transformation does not happen overnight. It is cultivated slowly through the daily practice of self-mastery, of awareness, of striving to be better, not because the world demands it, but because your soul does. Another layer of attraction comes from how a man treats others, not just when the spotlight is on him, but in the moments no one seems to notice. The way he speaks to a waiter, the patience he shows a stranger, the gratitude he expresses for the smallest act. These subtle behaviors reveal his character. A man who respects others without needing to perform for approval demonstrates maturity and humility. Women observe this carefully. They are not only drawn to how you treat them, but how you treat the world. A man who shows kindness without weakness, respect without servitude, and firmness without cruelty stands out in a world full of posturing. That balance creates a quiet confidence that cannot be faked. Then there is mystery, not the kind that comes from playing games or hiding your true self, but the mystery born from depth. A man who has depth of thought, who reads, who reflects, who can engage in conversations beyond surface-level distractions, naturally creates curiosity. His silence doesn't signal emptiness. It signals a mind at work. He doesn't need to tell his entire story at once, because he knows who he is and trusts that his actions will reveal him over time. This kind of mystery draws women in because they want to discover more, to understand what drives him, to explore the layers of who he is. Equally powerful is a man's ability to laugh, not at others, but at himself. A man who can take life seriously yet still find humor in it, who can acknowledge his mistakes without shame, who can lighten heavy moments without being careless, radiates ease. Laughter is magnetic because it brings warmth. It dissolves tension. It reveals humanity. A man who balances seriousness with playfulness is attractive because he shows that strength and softness can coexist, that life with him is not only secure, but also joyful. Another quality often overlooked is independence. A man who does not cling, who does not beg for constant reassurance, who has his own passions and priorities, creates an aura of freedom. Women are drawn to men who can stand on their own 2 feet, who do not crumble without constant attention, who have built lives worth sharing, but not dependent on another for existence. This independence does not mean coldness, it means wholeness. It means a man loves not because he needs, but because he chooses. That choice, freely given, is far more valuable than a desperate attachment. Yet, independence must be balanced with empathy. A man who can step into another's shoes, who can feel without losing himself, who listens not only with his ears, but with his presence, creates connection. Empathy shows a woman that he is not detached from humanity, that he values emotions without being consumed by them. It tells her that he is safe to be vulnerable with, safe to share her fears, safe to dream with. That safety, combined with independence, creates a rare combination. A man who is strong on his own, but even stronger in partnership. There is also undeniable attraction in ambition, not blind ambition that tramples over others, but the kind that fuels growth. A man with ambition doesn't settle for mediocrity. He seeks improvement, whether in his work, his health, or his character. He is not content with drifting through life. He shapes it. Women sense when a man has fire in his spirit, when he wakes with goals, when he builds instead of waiting for life to hand him everything. That kind of ambition signals leadership, vision, and drive, all qualities that make a man stand out in a world where many settle. And finally, perhaps perhaps one of the strongest magnets is integrity. A man who says what he means, who honors his word, who doesn't twist himself to fit into every situation, naturally commands respect. Women notice when a man's actions align with his words, when he keeps promises not because someone is watching, but because that is who he is. Integrity builds trust, and trust builds attraction. Because at the core of every relationship is not excitement or charm, but trust. Without it, attraction fades. With it, attraction deepens. What also makes a man magnetic is the way he handles solitude. A man who fears being alone often clings too tightly, chases too desperately, or distracts himself endlessly to avoid silence. But a man who is comfortable in his own company radiates strength. He shows that he is not defined by constant validation, that his sense of self is whole, even in silence. This comfort with solitude is powerful because it proves he is not dependent, but rather self-sustaining. Women are drawn to this kind of man because he does not need them to fill a void. Instead, he chooses to share his already complete life. That choice feels rare, and rarity is attractive. Another aspect is presence in the moment. So many live distracted, eyes glued to devices, minds scattered across worries and desires. But a man who can focus on the person in front of him, who listens intently, who makes you feel like you are the only one in the world when he speaks with you, that man leaves an impression. Women remember how you made them feel, and presence creates a feeling of importance, of being seen and valued. Presence signals respect, and respect breeds attraction. Courage is also at the heart of true attractiveness. Not reckless courage, but the willingness to face discomfort, to take risks when necessary, to speak truth even when it is unpopular. A man who shrinks from all difficulty, who avoids challenge, who bends at the first sign of pressure, loses respect. But a man who stands firm, who endures, who does not crumble when things get hard, becomes magnetic. This courage is not loud. It doesn't need to be. It is steady, quiet, unshakable. Women feel safer with a man who can face life's storms with calm resolve. There is also something deeply attractive in the pursuit of growth. When a man takes responsibility for becoming better, physically, mentally, emotionally, he shows that he values life and respects himself. Growth doesn't mean perfection, it means evolution. A man who is reading, learning, building new skills, taking care of his body, improving his habits. He shows he is alive, not stagnant. Women are drawn to men who refuse to remain stuck, because growth means life will never feel stagnant with him. There will always be something to strive toward, something to explore, something to create. Gratitude adds another dimension. A man who lives with gratitude doesn't walk around bitter or resentful. He doesn't complain endlessly about what he lacks, but appreciates what he has. Gratitude softens him without weakening him. It makes his presence uplifting instead of draining. When a woman senses that a man sees life as a gift, even when it's imperfect, she feels drawn toward him, because gratitude is contagious. It creates warmth, it creates joy, it creates an atmosphere where love can flourish. Then there is the power of restraint. A man who does not need to respond to every insult, who does not lose control at every provocation, who doesn't reveal all his emotions impulsively. He radiates strength. Restraint doesn't mean suppressing your humanity. It means choosing your battles wisely. It shows maturity, patience, and control. In contrast, a man who is easily provoked or always seeking to prove himself loses respect quickly. Women are naturally drawn to restraint because it shows a man has mastered himself. And self-mastery is one of the most powerful forms of attraction. Finally, there is the quiet magnetism of authenticity. A man who does not wear a mask, who does not pretend to be what he is not, who embraces his flaws while striving to be better, stands out in a world full of imitation. Authenticity is rare because it requires courage, vulnerability, and self-acceptance. Women are drawn to authenticity because it builds trust. They know what they see is what they get, and that honesty is priceless. When you step back and look at all these qualities, presence, purpose, confidence, discipline, kindness, depth, independence, empathy, ambition, integrity, solitude, presence in the moment, courage, growth, gratitude, restraint, and authenticity, you begin to see that true attraction is not about performance. It's not about trying to manipulate or impress, but about cultivating a life that naturally pulls others toward you. You don't become magnetic by chasing. You become magnetic by becoming. A man who embodies these traits doesn't need to convince anyone of his worth, because it is visible in how he moves through the world. Women feel it, even if they cannot always put it into words. They sense his steadiness, his focus, his fire, his ability to create safety without smothering, freedom without detachment, strength without arrogance. That balance is what sets him apart. The truth is, attraction is less about what you do and more about who you are becoming. You don't need to be flawless. You don't need to be extraordinary in every way. You simply need to build yourself in such a way that your life speaks louder than your words. When you carry yourself with integrity, when you pursue growth with passion, when you face life with courage and gratitude, you don't have to ask how to attract women. They will see it, they will feel it, and they will be drawn to it, not because you tried to capture their attention, but because you became the kind of man who naturally holds it. In the end, the most attractive man is not the one who spends his life chasing approval. It is the one who learns to master himself, who builds his character day by day, who seeks to live in alignment with his highest values. That man doesn't chase women. He doesn't need to, because when you become this kind of man, the world cannot help but notice.